Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session where we're going to have a conversation with members from our wonderful, diverse teams inside community. I am Karina Ramirez. I am CCL's Diversity and Inclusion Director. I am connecting today from West Palm Beach, Florida, which is the traditional land of the Seminole, Taino, Tequesta, and Yaga people. Let me take a second to share the screen. Can everyone see the screen? Yes. Okay. And of course, pronouns, she, her, they, yeah. Okay. The members that you see right here are representing the respective diversity teams. It's been a conversation throughout CCL, especially this year, to be able to bring not only diverse voices to the conversation, but ensure that we have built a community of members that not only want us to support each other, but also support the bill that we support. So in this space, I wanted to give each of them an opportunity to talk a bit about their team and to have just a short conversation about what are some of the challenges and opportunities that members face when creating a diverse space inside CCL. And I will have each of them introduce themselves. So we will start with the Asian Pacific Action Team.
Hi everyone, my name is Garima and I feel so happy to represent the Asian Pacific Action Team today, also known as APAT. And we're essentially an open space for everyone. We casually meet once a month, and our objective is to engage Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders within CCL, including brand new members. And we meet, we connect, we chat, we really take our time to get to know each other. And then we find projects to work on. So some projects that I've worked on is writing an op-ed for Asian American and Pacific Islander newspapers and magazines. And also, this is actually one opportunity, right? Is that outreaching for more members. That's also something that I learned through our monthly meetings. And also we do more fun events too, like movie nights, which we are planning for December as kind of a holiday celebration. In terms of opportunities and challenges that we face. So first of all, we only meet on a monthly basis, and this is hard to make sure that our participation numbers are steady. They vary a lot and it's hard to find schedules, but we do our best to really inform people and ask people when they're available. Also, another challenge we face is about South Asians like me. Sometimes South Asians may feel that they're not part of this team. Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, you are. You're totally welcome, whether you're Pakistani or Afghanistani, which a lot of people don't know, they're Asians too. Everyone is welcome, no matter what part of Asia you're from or however you identify. And lastly, another kind of challenge we face is sometimes Asian American people may feel that they get cut off in the meetings with other groups. And I noticed that this group, really everyone has time to speak and everyone has their chance. So for example, I was actually living in Portland this summer, which doesn't have a very large Asian American community, but I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm very used to Asian Americans. And when I joined my first APAT meeting, I felt extremely heard. I was never cut off. I had I had a chance to take the floor. And that was something that was really meaningful to me at a challenging time in my life. And so that's APAT team. Here's a contact that you can contact if you're interested.
Thank you so much, Garima. And now the Climate and Culture Action Team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Minerva Jean, and I'm super happy to be here with you all. I'm calling from Miami, Florida, the original land of the Seminole, Taino, and Tequestas, and I am part of the Climate and Culture Action Team. And we're a team that's open to all backgrounds, and we typically meet on the 3rd of every Monday, once a month. And we discuss various topics revolving around diversity, climate change, and its solutions, especially with what we can do with our own individual communities. So it's a really big space where you can just come together, talk about your own individual problems. We would do take-home readings and come back the next month and talk about what we took from those meetings and how we can apply that lesson into our pursuit of the climate change solution. And I would say that one of the opportunities of our team is, like many other teams, meeting once a month. It's definitely something that I would love to do more of, just to keep us connected, because so much happens in a month. So that would be one of the opportunities. Thank you. And also check us out on Facebook.
Thanks so much, Minerva. The Latinos Action Team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fernanda Lugo. I go by Fern. I'm calling in from State College, which is the area of the Susquehannock, Pennsylvania. And I'm representing the Latinos Action Team. I've been involved with them since I started in CCL. It's a great group that accommodates to Latinos of all races and ethnicities, because it's very broad, all nationalities, LGBT identities, and also abilities. So you can join this team if you are interested in outreaching to this community as well. We provide information if you are in an area that has a Latino population and you're trying to do outreach to that community. We can help you see what doors to open and how to communicate and connect with that community. We're also working on a couple other projects, branching out to Catholics and other groups, because that is a very prevalent co-factor in Latino identity for many of us. So this group started in 2017. We meet also once a month, just about the second Thursday of every month. And you can call in and learn more about us or follow us on Facebook. Some other issues that we've targeted recently, since there's been this discussion about racial equality, we've also taken on discussions about racism within the Latino community as well. So come with us if you want to learn more. Thanks.
Thank you, Fernanda. And the LGBTQIA plus and Allies Outreach Action Team.
Yep, I'm Brielle. I use they, them pronouns. I'm calling in from Northwest New Jersey, the traditional land of the Muncie Lenape. I'm one of the co-leaders of the action team, and we have 3 points to our mission. The first is to lobby and educate the members of Congress on the LGBTQ Equality Caucus to talk about intersectionality of social justice and climate justice. To expand outreach to LGBTQ plus organizations, especially those focusing on outdoor activities and LGBTQ youth, to engage them in climate activism, and to work on being more inclusive with our CCL chapters and action team. We just started and got up and running this summer, so we're still new, but we meet every 4th Tuesday for our monthly meetings, and every first Thursday we have a social hour, so anyone's welcome to join those. The groups, like the title says, is for allies too. I think one of the things that we struggle with is getting people to come to meetings. We are new, but having people come to meetings has been an issue, trying to get members to come. And then within groups, at least from my experience, having to be that like token LGBTQ person where people are expecting you to step up and do the pronouns and all of that instead of someone else in the group starting it. So as an ally, if that's something you are open to trying in your group, in your chapter meetings, especially if you're the group leader, is to start with pronouns and saying that and doing the land acknowledgements, so that the people of these diverse communities aren't the people that feel like they have to sit here and explain everything that they've explained 10,000 times to people and be the ones who say their pronouns when nobody else in the group does it. Just being a good ally and trying to initiate things so that the diverse members don't have to do it all the time themselves.
I wanted to, before we open the floor briefly, I wanted to let you know we have 2 other initiatives inside CCL that deal with diversity. One of them is the Amplifying Indigenous Voices, which personally is a group. They have been meeting since April, and it's a group of volunteers who have heard from their respective chapters that they want more representation of Indigenous communities. And right now, the group is conducting research and doing more of inward outreach. So if anyone is interested in learning more, please send me an email and I'll be happy to tell you about the status of the group. We hope to make it hopefully next year into an action team, but right now it's in the beginning stages. The other group is the People of the Global Majority, which is known throughout CCL as the PGM Caucus. It is the only safe space for people of color inside CCL. The particular reason for that is because we wanted, like the name, like a description says, a safe space where people can come and be themselves and share their struggles or anything that they felt we needed to know, not only for each other, so we can support each other throughout CCL, but anything that we could do to help ourselves and our outreach inside our respective chapters. And this team is going to need a new leader coming 2021. And again, if you are a person of color and interested, please let me know. And now to open up a floor for like a couple of minutes that we have left. We're taking about diversity and we're thinking about changing how CCL has been for the last couple of years. This work has been something that started prior to me getting here. I've been in CCL since 2017. But what we love about the work that is taking place right now is that our individual volunteers, it's been because of CCL volunteers that we now have the spaces that you see right now. So let me open up the floor, and anyone wants to provide any particular thing that you feel other CCLers need to know about your respective teams that you didn't share during your previous presentation.
I think I'd like to highlight about my climate and culture team is that when we say we are diverse, I mean, it's like a really big melting pot where people do come together from all walks of life to discuss one of our goals, but also learn from our other respective cultures of how climate change affects them. Because yes, it does affect everyone, but there are different levels to which it affects people. And it's just a very interesting perspective seeing how we can both, I mean, I'm based in Miami, so we can both live in Miami, but where I am versus where that other person is, there's two different things happening. And it's very important to come together and talk about that and create a conversation and solution for both our community and each other, and kind of encourage each other to be a leader and step up and continue doing what we're doing because it matters at the end of the day. So it's a very welcoming space.
That is the one thing I appreciate about the Climate and Culture Action Team. We see a little bit of everyone there. I do have a question for you guys. I was just thinking about it just quickly. Are you guys in a diverse chapter right now? I can tell you right now, I am the only person of color in my respective chapter. What about you guys?
I would say yes, we're in a diverse chapter. Like I said, it's very, very diverse. I mean, there are other action teams where I have joined where I was the only diverse person, but being in the culture and climate action team, I feel more a part of that conversation.
Anyone else?
So I'm in NJ05, and there are people of color in my group, and I know youth outreach is something for CCL also. And my chapter is pretty much all youth. Most of us are under 30. But from what I know, I'm the only LGBTQ person. So on that front, it's not diverse, but it's been great to see so many youth and people of color. The age gap goes from, we have juniors and seniors up to people who are 50s and 60s in our group, which is really cool.
Thank you for sharing, Bree. Fernanda, Karima?
So the most time that I spend is actually in my motivational presenting project, which is, you know, I'll just talk about that more because there's different teams that you can be a part of. And in my team, there are other young Asian American women, which is really nice. And then in my, the actual team that I'm in, I tend to be kind of the youngest and also one of the only Asian Americans. But people are very friendly and welcoming. And I just, you know, kind of, there have been situations where, for example, like I used the word, we were talking about Diwali, and I used the word puja, and that's a Indian word, I think in Sanskrit. And someone started laughing, right? Because it sounds like, and so this is the kind of thing where it was kind of like a little bit of a miscommunication. But I just explained, oh no, so that's not an English word, that's like a word in Sanskrit. So things like that have happened, but all in all, it's been okay.
Karina, we have a question from the chat asking all the panelists, what would you like to see more chapters doing to make their groups as inclusive as possible?
I'll go ahead and quickly answer. I would say that, I mean, CCL in general is very, I mean, I think it's amazing because it does create a very welcoming community. But I would also say that it's about offering that individual an opportunity to branch out. So like, for example, in some other action teams, I could be the only diverse person, but I don't want other members to point at me and say, oh, we have a diverse person here, great, we're diverse. No, or, oh, I'm only going to include you in that diverse conversation, but we're more than just diverse. We are, because climate change is a collaborative effort. And so everybody brings something to the table. I don't just want to be the diverse person who only brings diversity to the table. I have much more to offer. And so I think that by creating a space where it's like, yes, you're a diverse person, and yeah, feel free to join some diverse action teams, but we want you included in other conversations as well, and to encourage that and not just mention diverse, but it's diverse, because it's great. It also gets tiring when you're only seen as that only diverse person who's there for diversity.
And may I add to your comment, Minerva? I have heard that it's part of the reason why some people leave. So I usually make it a point to find out from members who have left us for a variety of reasons why they left. And that was one of the main comments. It's like, I've heard anything from the people say, I constantly feel disrespected in my chapter, or my group leader doesn't listen to me. I can't offer any ideas. And incredibly enough, that was the reason why we started having the PGM caucus, at least for the people of color. But as I am having more conversations with volunteers, and they're coming to me about what they want to see. LGBTQ was a really big thing that got expressed to me last fall. There's discussions about what do we do for people that are hard of hearing. And, of course, we, in the organization right now, we look at all types of diversity, including political diversity, which is, as you would say, our primary focus. But I am trying to keep, my eyes and ears open and available to listen to what volunteers want. And if I would say, one thing you could do in your chapter, like immediately, is try to really go look into your membership. And if your membership is not what you would like to see, reach out and let us know how we can help you change it. Because some people can just be comfortable, and that can be okay for you. But what we're asking here is for you to invite the different voices of this livable planet we want to have. And the reason why I do this work is because when I first came in 2017, I was like, this is wonderful. I love what you're doing. I love the bipartisanship, but I don't see people like myself. And that for a while felt very lonely. As much as I love everything that CCL wants to do and accomplish, I wanted to bring more people here. And now we have, 3 years later, all of these diverse communities that are now here, and we're trying to support each one of them.
I have a comment. Do you guys know the concept of, do you all know the concept of stand up, stand down? So this is not really as physical in the world of COVID and Zoom, but essentially what it means is know when you're holding the floor. Like if you're talking 50% of the time, right, maybe you need to cut that down. And so I think that one thing that would be very helpful to people of color, which I personally experienced, is when other folks monitor how much they're speaking and how long they're holding the floor. Like I respect your knowledge, I love learning from you, but you also have things that you can learn from me, right? Like I also have things to share. In fact, I actually have cultural experiences. Yes, I have a degree in environmental studies. Yes, I have a degree in economics. Yes, I'm going to further pursue these studies at Oxford. But in reality, I have these lived experiences. I grew up going to an ashram. In an ashram, we eat on plates made of leaves. We have cows from which we get milk in the ashram. We cook, right? We cook, everything is in the ashram. And what I mean by that is saying, don't hold the floor and listen to me for who I am and what experiences I bring, rather than just my degree or whatever is on paper. I would say that those are two things that you can do that would really, really help will help make people of color feel more comfortable in your team.
I have a comment by a person here who said, one thing I learned from the climate and culture team is to recognize that as an older white man, it's very easy to break into the discussion. So I've learned to make space for non-white male members to contribute first. And that's sort of piggybacking off another comment that asking about how she's unclear about how you can have a diverse person. And it seems to me that diversity needs community. So I think that the question I see out of that is, how do you see building community in diversity that can invite everybody to participate?
Bill, can you actually repeat the question or rephrase it a little bit?
Well, the main question was, the person said they were unclear on how you can have a diverse person. And it seems to me that diversity needs community. So the question I was asking is, how do you create that community for people to be involved in?
So it's centered on this idea of opening the floor to the people who have that cultural knowledge or that personal experience in climate stories that we all have and share, and giving people the floor is one area. But as far as building community, there's still a lot of awareness to be built around how much work it is to be a volunteer in this area, and how much emotional work and physical, now that we're all on Zoom, it's a lot of strain for a lot of people to do in this environment. So actually I had to step away from CCL for a while when things went all online, because I get strained from being on the calls a lot. So opening up the space for diverse abilities as well, and disabilities is also crucial. And yeah, what else wants to add to that?
May I comment on the, go ahead, Bree, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, on the community end, I think it's important to not just want to start community, but understand the communities. So educating yourself on the communities, either through the action teams, some of them giving talks, like I've given a talk on how to be an ally to trans and non-binary identities before. So those things, just doing your own personal research. You don't have to spend hours doing it, but Googling any questions you have, or asking people who are allies and farther along the path, and understanding what people need instead of just asking them what they need all the time, since that's something they're going to experience a lot, and it can become a burden to have to tell people like who you are and explain your community all the time. So just educating yourself on the community, and then asking, hey, how can we implement these kind of things in our chapter meetings to make you feel more comfortable. And with the action teams, even though we have them, saying just because you find out someone is LGBTQ or something else, saying like, oh, hey, you might like this action team. Some people just aren't into the community aspect of things. So you can just remind people that the diversity teams are there, but not specifically pointing out that, hey, you might like this team just because you're a part of it.
I have another question. We are a relatively small but active rural chapter in the High Sierra. 15 to 20% of our community is Latinx, though about 30% of our school population is Latinx. Latinx folks are not well integrated into our community generally. We are anxious to do outreach within our Latinx community. It's been hard to do this. We currently have no members, nor Spanish-speaking members. What are your suggestions?
So reaching out to the Latinx community is complicated by also the other aspects that impact this community, such as like most of them might be farm workers, and that might, or their employment level is might be a barrier to having them have full involvement like we are in this work. So one thing to be mindful of is when you are reaching out to these communities is don't ask too much. There is a lot on people's plates. And also don't go into there seeking to find these diversity token people, as we've been talking about. You really want to focus on understanding what cultural riches do they bring to the table in the discussion of sustainability, and how can you lend the voice to them in that way. As far as reaching out right now, in COVID times, it's particularly challenging. I haven't quite thought through what the next steps for our team is, given that situation. And that's perfectly okay to take a hiatus, because a lot of other groups are also growing. And we will find people as long as we've incorporated these diverse conversations. The people we've found will also stay longer. So the team is growing. We really just have to focus again on empowering these diverse voices.
I will add to Fernanda. How I started doing my work was volunteering in the communities I wanted to outreach. I know, and I've heard this multiple times, when people say, well, I'm already volunteering for CCL and it takes all of my time. This kind of diversity outreach does take a little longer. So I am asking people to help us build bridges, reach out, find out what is needed in your community just for the sake of finding out what is needed. Not because you're looking for the supporter who's going to come and help us endorse the Energy Innovation Act. That can happen. I have seen that happen in my own community. It happened for me after a year of being involved. But that's because I moved to a different area of the country. So I had to relearn everything. So I just started volunteering and offering my time and expertise. It was very minimal, but that was one way to have people get to know me. And then 3 months and 4 months, and somebody said, I didn't know that you were doing climate work. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do? And that created a completely set of conversations. I think a lot about what Marshall Saunders would say, we do this one conversation at a time. If we don't know who's in our community, there's absolutely no way we can start building the kind of chapters that we want to see, that has every color, you name it, background, as volunteers for us. So that would be my suggestion. If you can, volunteer your time.
I'm sorry we're not going to be able to get to all the questions in the chat. I have one last question here. We have a couple minutes left. It's probably a question that needs more time, but I thought I'd throw it out there. This is a question for everybody. I've been thinking about a conversation starter, and I'd like to know what your panelists think about this. Might it make you feel more or less comfortable in a group with a limited racial diversity, inviting all in the group to introduce themselves and naming some of the ways that they identify? The idea is to allow anyone to name their cultural heritage, racial identity, religious affinity, political ideology, gender identification, profession, hobbies, etc. Any way that points out we are all more than the way we may appear to others.
That's an excellent question. I put it in the chat. I usually ask, what is your cultural background? Because that could be anything. You may come across a white Latino conservative and you may not know it because of how they would look, for example. And so it's just a good way to get into the habit of when you're doing introductions in your chapter, throw a question like that and you'll see the kind of responses. Because I am sure people that self-identify as white may have different kinds of European backgrounds that we may not know of. And this could be a good way to be able to connect with other people. It is 2:40. This conversation could have gone much longer. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much to the panelists for participating today. I can be reached at diversity@citizensclimate.org. If you have any particular questions for any kind of the diverse teams, I am happy to forward that to them. And the next thing that happens on this line is the Action Team Fair for the Latinos and the PGM caucus. You are welcome to stay if you want to learn more about those particular teams, but that is the next thing on our program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration. And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.